Hi, welcome back. I'm the Book Guy, and all this month of June, we're celebrating Pride Month by looking at fantasy and sci-fi books with a strong queer presence, where the main characters are part of the LGBT community and the book is telling their story. Today we are looking at the 3 books in the series The Locked Tomb. This series sometimes gets pitched as Lesbian Necromancers.
Oversimplification of events, but yes.
It's an accurate label. For some of you, that might be all the convincing you need, so go on and read this series and have a great time. Everyone else, let's have a look at these books spoiler-free, and I'll help you decide if the series is going to be right for you. A quick overview, this series is new adult, so it has some young adult tropes, like young protagonists, teenage rebellion against authority, and a magic school. But it's combined with more adult fiction, so darker content and mature themes, plus some more advanced storytelling. This series really surprised me. Despite it being aimed at a slightly younger audience, it still has such a deep and complex story. Now, I've read a lot, okay? I've read the Malazan universe, yet this series actually required me to really switch on and concentrate in order to keep up with such a clever story. It's definitely a top quality work of fiction that I enjoyed immensely. Now, let's begin and look at what this story is all about. This is a story about necromancers. The Emperor of 9 Worlds needs more necromancers, so he's put the call out for all the worlds to send their most talented dark magicians to compete in his deadly trial. Whoever succeeds will be granted immortality and serve at the side of his throne. This is a huge opportunity for the 9th house. After all, they have been in decline for years, and they may just die out entirely if they fail to earn the Emperor's favor now. However, Gideon of the 9th house could not care less. She's not an honored necromancer in their society, she's just a lowly swordswoman, trained from birth to fight with the blade. But she also has the unenviable position of being a cavalier, a servant to her necromancer lord. Every day, Gideon must give up a part of her life, her blood, and her soul to her mistress to use to fuel her necromantic power. It's an entirely one-sided relationship with undertones of abuse and slavery, and Gideon would do anything to be free. Yet her necromancer mistress, Harrow, has been called to compete in the Emperor's trials, with the hopes and dreams of her entire world resting on her shoulders. Harrow must win by any means necessary, and Gideon must go with Harrow as a battery to fuel her necromantic powers. But Gideon will find a way to escape Harrow, and make her and the whole 9th house pay for what they've done. Okay, this world building is extremely cool, but I'm not going to share too much about it. So much of the joy of reading this series comes from the slowly uncovering exactly what this setting is. So let me keep this as vague as possible. The 9 houses of necromancy are actually 9 different planets, all in one solar system. But hang on, you ask, aren't there 9 planets in our solar system? Yes, but only if you count Pluto. Naturally, this whole book is about how Gideon and the 9th house live on the most distant planet and are constantly overlooked by all the other houses. Yeah, I think we can agree that this series is one big love letter to Pluto. And I don't feel like that's an exaggeration at all. My generation took Pluto's betrayal very personally. In fact, forgive me for this product placement, but my shop literally sells these pins that say Pluto is a planet in my heart. I'm just saying, Gideon the 9th makes total sense to me.
Pluto's a planet!
Anyway, yes, there's a solar system of 9 planets and each one has necromancers. How did this happen? You'll have to read to find out. I can't say how any of this came to be and I can't reveal any of the secrets of the past, but damn, it is a good plotline. You'll also notice this story is a fantasy and sci-fi hybrid. I freaking love genre-bending books. This world has magic and monsters, but also space travel and flying ships. Although the greater emphasis is definitely on the fantasy side and on the magic system. Let me give you a quick overview. You see, necromancy is a dark magic. You may think that's obvious, but brace yourself, it gets pretty dark. All necromantic power comes from thalagy, life energy, or thanergy, death energy. So a necromancer can draw on any living organism, steal their life away to create life energy to fuel their magic. Or they can draw on death energy, where something has to be destroyed in part or in whole in order to release death energy. That's why necromancers always have one person, their cavalier, who they draw their power from. This poor unfortunate soul either has part of their life drained away to create life energy, or they are required to literally damage themselves in some way to produce death energy. As such, these pairs have a dangerously one-sided relationship. And yes, we'll talk more about this in the content warning section. But what do necromancers do once they've obtained their various energies? Well, that's when they use one of the three branches of magic: bone magic, flesh magic, and spirit magic. And keeping it vague to avoid spoilers, but bone magic is chiefly about raising skeletons as constructs to do your bidding. Flesh magic is largely about self-manipulation, healing, strengthening, and, performance-enhancing necromancy. And spirit magic is about ghosts, revenants, and speaking to the dead. Yet all three of these types of magics can be used in so many different ways. It's a dark, brilliant, complex magic system that is a joy to read, if a little blood and gutsy. As soon as you pick up this book, you'll notice it has a very strong writing style, and it's incredible. Tamsin Muir writes these books with such beautiful, vivid prose that makes every line sing. This is some top-quality literary writing. And yet, the descriptions are markedly Gothic, full of darkness and visceral grit. The mood is creepy, the magic is twisted, and everything's just a little menacing. But that's not all. The prose also has some shocking moments of crassness mixed in. Sometimes the characters themselves are crude, and sometimes it's their inner monologue that comes through. For example, I distinctly remember one line that described a person's lips squeezed together in disgust and compared it to a cat's asshole. Man, the picture really stuck in my mind. So why the vulgarity? Well, it's worth noting that many of these characters are young, and young people swear a lot. I know in books and movies, but there's always a push to write young people who are role models that we should emulate. But I'm a firm believer that kids and teenagers and new adults will happily swear all the time and talk in a vulgar way whenever there's no authority figures around. It's edgy, and in that sense, I think it's realistic. So this writing style is honestly incredibly rare. It combines the beauty of the language itself, the haunting nature of the Gothic world, and the occasional moments of vulgarity that make every line just so captivating. So there are two big goals at the start of this series. The Emperor needs more necromancers, and the Ninth House is barely surviving. If Harrow and Gideon win the competition, they can achieve both of these goals at the same time. Yet the obvious question is, what's going on with the Emperor? Why does he need more necromancers? What is he planning? Something is definitely going on here, and it's going to clearly take more than one book to figure it out. The Emperor's trial also takes place in a special magic school, like a vast cathedral. This may seem like a trope that we have seen a few times already, but something is not right about this place. This school is dangerous, and the trial is not going to plan. Soon, a competition becomes a fight for survival. Yet the real focus of the story is about Gideon and her mistress Harrow, and their seriously twisted relationship. Gideon wants freedom. She doesn't care about the Ninth House or the Emperor, and she hates Harrow with an endless fury. After all, every time Harrow needs to do magic, Gideon is expected to have her body drained of life energy, or even go so far as to self-harm in order to release death energy. It's a brutal arrangement that was forced upon Gideon from childhood. Yet Harrow is a complex character. She seems so cold, heartless, and cruel, and yet she has the weight of the world, literally the entire Ninth World, on her shoulders. She has a greater good to worry about, so she can't feel sorry for Gideon or even for herself when the stakes are so high. Harrow must fulfill her duty at all costs. This tension between them is a twisted poison that is deeply enjoyable. And yet, in many ways, book one may be the weakest of the three. Let me explain. This series is new adult, and yet I would say that book 1 is probably the most young adult of the 3. There's more tropes, more familiar storylines, and the story is simpler and smaller in scope. In short, it's not too complex. But I think that's intentional, not a flaw. I think the author is starting readers out on an easier story, because, oh boy, does it get intense. Books 2 and 3 become a whole lot more complicated in the best possible way. Now, I'm going to keep this part brief as so to avoid spoilers, but to put it simply, both books 2 and 3 have a significant change in the situation. The books just start in a new place, with a new protagonist, without telling the audience how we got from A to B. I think this is simultaneously the series' greatest strength and the greatest potential challenge. Not a weakness, but a challenge. You see, the next 2 books become a complex, mind-bending puzzle that makes you question everything we see. It blurs the line between life and death, reality and insanity. And they explore the secrets of the past and how this world came to be. It's brilliant and haunting at the same time. Although I have to admit it can also be quite disorientating and confusing. So while I enjoyed book 1, I think it's focused on easing the reader into this world, and then books 2 and 3 become more advanced. So keep that in mind. Now, I will keep this spoiler free, but let me just highlight a couple of small things about the later books so you know how good they get. Harrow finds herself fighting in an impossible war across the 9 worlds. She has strange new powers that she must master, and she has wise ancient teachers helping her reach her full abilities as a necromancer. If she perfects her dark abilities, she could turn the tide of this war. And yet, Harrow is physically ill, prone to nausea and anxiety attacks every time she touches her sword. Her mental health has been shattered by guilt and trauma, and Harrow cannot trust her own mind. It's almost as if the more powerful her magic grows, the weaker Harrow becomes. So this book takes things up quite a few notches. Gone are the tropey magic schools and the teenage rebellion. This is high magic across all the worlds. The scale and complexity increases. Harrow is a very compelling main character and very different to Gideon, where Gideon was rebellious and crude and didn't give a crap about what anyone thought of her. Harrow is weighed down by everyone's expectations. She is strict, obedient, and holds herself to a high standard, but it seems all that rigidity is about to snap. This book reminds me a lot of movies like Shutter Island, psychological thrillers that make you question everything. But moving on, in the 3rd book, Nona wakes up one day and finds she is trapped inside a different body. She has no idea how she got there, or who this body used to belong to, or if she'll have to give it back. Meanwhile, the Great War has reached the doorstep of her world, and Nona is expected to use her necromancy to save her world. Yet Nona has her own problems. All she wanted was a quiet life with the people she loves. But instead, she has to find out what really happened to her and who did it. Is it possible that she has already been getting manipulated for a long time? Does this have anything to do with the locked tomb? This book returns us to the world of Pluto, the 9th house. And once again, it's a complex, mind-bending puzzle of a story that makes you question what's real. Nona herself is very much a child protagonist, young and immature. Yet she is intelligent, to the point of a near psychic level of prediction. And she's unusually gifted at necromancy. It's a great example of an unreliable narrator. Nona sees things that may freak out the reader, but as a child, she doesn't grasp the significance. It adds a layer of complexity to this puzzle. But finally, all 3 books are connected in some way to the Locked Tomb. Yes, the name of the series. On the 9th world, there is a special crypt, a giant mausoleum that is off limits to everyone. So, naturally, all of our characters go diving in there like teenagers at a horror films going down dark alleys. There are some dark, ancient secrets inside this locked tomb, and we have no idea what may be unleashed if we find out the truth. Although now's a good time to mention that we've got at least one more book to go in this series. So this series was originally going to be a trilogy, but book 3 changed that. Fans are now eagerly awaiting Alecto the Ninth. We don't have confirmation if book 4 will be the final book, and it's worth noting that book 4 has also taken unusually long to publish. There is still no date of release. Personally, I think it's likely that the 4th book will wrap up the story, but we will have to wait and see. So as I said at the start, this series is often pitched as Lesbian Necromancers, and yet I was surprised to read these books and realize there's just not that much romance. And I don't want to spoil the character arcs or the plot lines, but let's just say the books aren't really about romance. Now I confess, I briefly wondered why this is considered a queer book if there aren't queer romances. But this is a really important distinction that we should talk about, because all of our main characters are queer, and that doesn't change just because they're not in a relationship. This is an important lesson that I learned from this book, and it's something we can all learn. A person's sexual identity doesn't change depending on who they're in a relationship with. You can be gay and single. You can be bisexual and be in a straight passing relationship. Hell, you can even be polyamorous and have 0 partners. In the same way, sometimes people will experiment. Maybe they'll try having sex with someone of the same gender and later realize that wasn't for them.
Fine, I was trying something and it didn't work.
That doesn't mean, whoops, I guess you're gay now. No, it just means it wasn't right for them. So remember that queerness is not defined by the relationships you're in, neither romantic nor sexual. It's defined entirely by what label feels most comfortable for you. Okay, content warning. This story can be quite graphic, and yet it's not focused on graphicness so much as the creepy aesthetic. There's a bit of body horror, blood, flesh, bones, and all used in the magic, and there's a decent amount of just violence and gore. There is lots of swearing, our edgy teenagers swear quite a bit, and there's heaps of sexual innuendos, although very soft on the actual sex scenes. The big warning here is all around depictions of self-harm. Our cavaliers have to damage themselves to release death energy. Now, I was extremely skeptical when I first saw this, and I started vigilantly watching every single instance where this happened to check if it glorified self-harm in any way. But I'm very confident in saying no, it does not romanticize self-harm. In fact, the series actually offers a profound insight and commentary into the nature of self-destructive patterns. It talks about the mental health effects, the self-image and body confidence. I would say this is markedly anti-self-harm, but still content warning for just that whole topic. Is the ending worth it? So we're still waiting on book 4, and we're not 100% sure if it'll be worth it at this stage. And I will warn you, there is a bit of a cliffhanger as things stand at the moment. Personally, I am very hopeful that I will be reviewing Alecto the Ninth very soon. Meanwhile, I can vouch for the quality of the series overall and state that it only gets better as it goes. And how much should you try? Yeah, this is a bit trickier. You see, Gideon the Ninth is a good book, but Harrow is better. Or at least, Harrow is more impressive in terms of writing quality and ambitious storytelling. I think there will definitely be people who prefer young adult books who will prefer Gideon the Ninth over Harrow. But I think now you'll understand what's different about them and why there's a shift in the series' direction. You should know now how much you need to read to get to the part that you will enjoy the most. I hope you'll check out the series, so good luck and happy reading. Coming up next, we're finishing our Pride Month celebration by discussing the Iron Widow series by Shiran J. Zhao. I hope to see you there. If you want to support what I do, please consider checking out my own books, The Immortal Investigations. I have an online shop which is finally linked to my YouTube channel. I think you should see some shirts, pins, and bags on the tabs somewhere around this box thing. I also have a Patreon where people vote on my content. So any of those 3 options will help to keep me going. Otherwise, subscribe for more, tell me your thoughts on Gideon the Ninth below, and I will see you next time. I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye!